All right, we are live on the internet, and we got about 30 seconds before we hit the airwaves. How do you sound there, Sugar? Talking to you, Corn, of course. Corn. About to go live here. You about ready?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I was born ready. Now, the audio, I want to split it up because there's a pretty, we got to stay up with the, okay. But yeah, there's the players and
from
there's
Columbia.
Jack gives an opening
This is
statement.
Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio
And then
Network.
players.
Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266
yeah, just take the players out
or
and
email
piece Jack
talkback
together and we'll play 2 separate segments.
sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary,
No problem.
and Tom Hayes.
The good thing is it's, regardless of what the score is, it's one game. I've been here before. I've been here in 1999. We lost 22-6 in the first game of regional, came back, won 4 games in a row. So our mindset is this one's behind us. We're going to move on to the next one.
We know that Campbell's a really, really good team that's won a lot of games, and they're going to come in here expecting to win. They won 50-plus games a year ago, obviously 40-plus this year. They're very, very well coached. They're a team that's going to expect to win. It doesn't really matter who they're playing, and we understand that.
Well, what can you say about Clemson's day? It's all over as far as today is concerned for the Tigers and Jack Leggett, while there is still hope ahead of Chad Holbrook and the Gamecocks as they get ready to take on Campbell in their first game of the regional in Columbia. But here in Nashville, it was just ugly for Clemson in every phase of the game. Pitching, offense, defense. Oregon beat Clemson every which way you can beat a baseball team. I've never seen a baseball game where an opponent speds you up, kind of like a football offense does today with the spread offense, and they're snapping the ball every 7 to 10 seconds. That's kind of how it felt with Oregon's baseball team today and their offense, running on almost every opportunity, taking the extra base at every opportunity, putting down sacrifice bunts, turning those into runs and also into safe fielder choice, getting on base as a result, stealing bases. They just ran Clemson ragged today. The only good news for the Tigers is just one loss. They'll have a chance to rebound tomorrow against either Xavier or Vanderbilt, depending on who loses that game tonight. All right, welcome into Sports Talk on this Friday night as we come to you from Nashville, also in Columbia, the Professor Tom Hayes at our studios. K-Mac is over at USC. We'll be joining him in a moment for the latest from that regional. But, Pro, you know, there's a couple of ways to lose. You can lose close. You can lose big. Both hurt. Usually easier to get over that big loss than it is that close loss, that walk-off kind of defeat.
You started the show tonight. I thought you were going to recite the official state motto, "While I breathe, I hope." But what these things snowball. Let's face it. Clemson came in about being ready to play small ball, and it turned into gorilla ball. Who knew? Because from what I heard as far as radio commentary, because I wasn't watching the game, that most of the hits were well stroked. I mean, when they hit, they were hitting that wall you were talking about last night. So it's just one of those games. And really, if I would tell you the truth, if I'm Jack Leggett, I'm not worried about my team. I got embarrassed, and I'm gonna come out and take it out on somebody. If I'm really worried, I'm Coach Horton, because some of those runs he may wish he would have saved for another game.
Yeah. Well, the Tigers will have their ace going tomorrow against either Xavier or Vanderbilt. That's their lone hope for keeping this season alive. We'll dive into everything with the regionals. A lot of news from the SEC as well. We'll be back.
Yeah, that's why I went over to I was over at a place of business on my side of town picking something up, and sure enough, it was 1-0, and the clerk in the store, 1-0 Clemson. That changed.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson scored the first run of the game, and then it was Katie bar the frickin' door. I mean, look at the third inning. Clemson's up. I'm sorry, second inning. Clemson's up 1-0. Oregon comes up, get a leadoff triple into the down, scores the run, and he beats it out at first. Then they get a single, so it's first and second. And then they, why did I move that down to second on that? It was choice. No, I take that back. Take that back. Did they get fielder's choice? No, they didn't throw him out there. Then they get a single. Then they get another single. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. If it's going to drop, that's a good time to drop. Then they had another bunt. That was an error. Why did I move him away? Starting here. They got third.
Telling you, man, I understand the strategy behind the whole saving of the pitcher and all the above, but man, there's no way. With the recent past couple of years, the way they've gone, there's no way I'm passing on Goss at game one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're playing, some D2 team. I mean, you just got to win game one and get your team that positive momentum they need.
Anyway, I get that audio. Take Jack's opening comment, and then, well, maybe I'll clean it up.
You want to do it?
If I have time. Let me see what we get.
Here's Vanderbilt.
I missed that. Now,
a lot of life lessons, I would say.
Our phone number on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. For those of you who'd like to comment on the Clemson game today, love to hear from you. 800-956-7266. Also, our email, talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, we're at SportsTalkSC. Our website, sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, you can like us there at Sports Talk Radio Network. Quick review of the Clemson game today. It won't take very long. I'll spare you all the gory details. Clemson actually led 1-0 after the top of the first. The Tigers went out and put a run on the board, nearly had a second run as well. Unfortunately for them, a ball that went into the left field corner with a runner on first base. This was hit by Boulware, and Wilkerson was on first, but the ball went underneath the fence down there in the corner, became a ground rules double, And so Wilkerson had to go back to third. So Tigers had a chance for a second run, but they got Jay Baum to pop up into foul territory, the first baseman, to end the inning. But the Tigers had a 1-0 lead, held that lead all the way to the bottom of the second. And that's when it began to rain runs by the Ducks. They put 3 on the board in the second, and that was just an indication of things to come. They batted around 3 times in the game. In the fourth inning, they scored 5 times, and it wasn't all by small ball. They hit 2 big home runs. Their leading home run hitter, their catcher, he hit a shot to center field for a 3-run homer. That's Sean Chase. That was his 12th homer of the year. And he was followed by Tyler Bumgardner, who hit a home run to right field. All of this off Matthew Crownover. They scored 5 times in the inning. That made it 8-1. Still early enough to where maybe, you never know, maybe Mount rally. That was pretty much killed in the 5th inning when the Ducks scored 3 runs to go up 11-1. And then things really came apart in the 6th. They batted around again plus more, and they scored 7 times, 18-1, the final score, 18-20, and no errors for Oregon. They left 12. 1, 5, and 2 for the Tigers. They lead 6. And when you break it down offensively for Oregon, they did just about everything they wanted to on offense. I mentioned they had 20 hits. They had 9 extra base hits, including the 2 home runs. They were hit by pitches 5 times. They put down 3 sacrifice bunts, 2 of which led to runs. They had a sacrifice fly for another run. They stole 5 bases. They were not caught stealing at all. They did not commit an error in the field. Just about every way you can beat a baseball team, that's what Oregon did to Clemson. Their starter was Thorpe. He went 7 innings, allowed 5 hits, 1 run. Walked 4, struck out 4, picked up his 11th win. The Tigers used they used almost everybody that was available in the bullpen outside of the starter for tomorrow, Daniel Gossett. They used 6 pitchers today. Crowder took the loss 8-6, 3 2/3 innings, 10 hits, 8 earned runs. He did strike out 7, only walked 1, but the 2 home runs he gave up, those were big, and he had trouble with runners on base and trying to hold the runners on, and just the movement of the Oregon players on the base paths. They just feel like, it looks to me like the next base is theirs. That's their approach. The next base is theirs, and they're going to get it either by stealing the base or by taking an extra base on a shot to the outfield. Irwin, Lavorne, Kerner, Moyer, and Long also pitched for the Tigers. They were all stretched out 1 inning each, except for Irwin, who went a third of an inning. So if they're needed tomorrow, I'm sure some of these guys could go back to the mound tomorrow. So this is one Clemson wants to forget, and forget quickly. It's an embarrassing loss for the Tigers. It ties Clemson's record for the most lopsided loss in NCAA tournament play for Clemson. They lost by 17 runs to Texas A&M. I think that was back in 1999 in a regional out in Texas A&M, out of College Station. So the other note of concern has to be the fact that Clemson has now lost 4 of his last 5 NCAA tournament games. So it's sort of backpedaling on the Tigers right now in NCAA play, which is the time of year, of course, when you want to play your best. So Clemson goes down 18-1. They'll play at 2 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow afternoon against either Vanderbilt or Xavier in an elimination game. Now let's go over to Carolina Stadium, where one game is in the books of the USC Regional, South Carolina and Campbell coming up, and K-Mac has set up shop over at Carolina Stadium. Good evening, K-Mac.
Good evening, Corn. Yeah, just listening to you go through that game, unbelievable what happened to Clemson. And here's another stat. Since the Tigers lost to USC in the College World Series, when they lost 2 straight to the Gamecocks, they've lost 7 of their last 10 regional games since that point in 2010. So it has been a struggle for them in the postseason. The Gamecocks at home, it has not been a struggle for them, as we know. They've won 27 straight going back to their Sarge Fridays. They've never lost in this stadium, Carolina Stadium, 16-0, looking to make that 17-0 tonight against Campbell. The starting lineups are in. I'll give you those in just a moment. Mention that both of these teams sitting on 40 wins. Campbell, the 4 seed at 40-19, and USC at 42-16. They'll send their ace Jordan Montgomery to the mound, 7-5 with a 3.52 ERA in his last 24 postseason innings. He has not allowed a run, much less an earned run. He's been spectacular. Struck out 20 in that span and has only walked 1. Jordan Montgomery has been lights out in the postseason, and he gets the nod tonight. Marcus Mooney will lead off for the Gamecocks and play short. Max Schrock, his back is good to go. He's in the number 2 hole and is the DH tonight. Joey Pancake in the number 3 spot and batting and playing third base. Cal Martin is going to play first and bat cleanup. Grayson Griner in the 5 hole. He'll catch DC Arendis getting the start at second base and batting 6th. Connor Bright returning with that elbow injury that's kept him out. He's back in right field tonight, and he will bat 7th. Gene Cohn getting the nod over Patrick Harrington. So he gets the start. The freshman will start in left field and bat 8th, and Tanner English will play center field and bat 9th for the Gamecocks. Heath Bowers will start on the mound for Campbell, 10-3 with a 2.95 ERA.
All right, very good. And what about the first game of the day? I think it was Maryland coming from behind, if I'm not mistaken. Did Maryland come from behind and win that game against ODU?
They did. It was turtle power. They were down 3-0 going into the 8th. They played at 1 run in the 8th, and then in the 9th they scored 3, so they win it 4-3 and move on into the winners bracket. And they'll play tomorrow night at 7 o'clock against the winner of this game. And Old Dominion falls into the losers bracket in an elimination game tomorrow at 1 o'clock between the loser of the Gamecock and the Camels here. Maryland's coach, John Sheff, he has, talked about the Gamecocks and their streak. He was talking about it yesterday. He talked about it again after the game. He compared their win streak here at Carolina Stadium and Sarge Fry in the postseason to the Kansas basketball win streak they had at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. And he said, streaks are made to end. Streaks end. So he would like to end that streak, obviously, and isn't afraid to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Real quick, K-Mac, how much of Maryland's good pitching was used up in that first game today? Do you have an indication?
I don't have a box in front of me either. I'll check that. It was a pretty low-scoring game, so I don't know how deep into their bullpen they had to go. And that's one of the things about Maryland, and watching them in Greensboro, a pretty good hitting team, but some of their bullpen work and their pitching gets a little weak if you move down the line a little bit. So that could be something that's exploited if the Terps have to go deep into this tournament.
All right, we'll check on that and get back to you. And we'll update other scores from across the country as well, as it is day 1 of play in the NCAA baseball regional all across the country. We'll update scores. We'll talk more about Clemson and where they go from here. We'll hear from Jack Leggett, and we'll hear from some Tiger players as well. More sports talk coming up in just a moment. Okay, I got it up. On that and get back to you. And we'll update other scores from across the country as well, as it is day 1 of play in the NCAA baseball regional all across the country.
You definitely did.
And we'll hear from some Tiger players as well. More sports talk coming up in just a moment.
Did that catch you a little bit there in the zones when you struggled?
Trying to get this Clemson audio thing up here real quick.
Matthew, you said yesterday you were 99, I got 22-6 the first game of the regional, came back, won 4 games in a row. So our mindset is this one's behind us, we're going to move on to the next one.
Scores from across the country as well, as it is day 1 of play in the NCAA baseball.
You said yesterday you were worried about that.
We'll get to hear from some Tiger players as well. More sports talk.
Thank you for that.
Damn it. How much time before you come back to me?
30.
You said yesterday you were worried about their bunt game and how their student efforts. Matthew, you said yesterday you were worried about their. They can swing it pretty well when they're.
All right, stand by.
Just a second to get the guys.
All right, lots of other stuff going on today, as you might expect. A busy Friday afternoon. Let's catch you up on other scores in NCAA regional play. In Baton Rouge, LSU beat Southeastern Louisiana 8-4. Houston and Bryant coming up. In Bloomington, Stanford beat Indiana State 8-1. Youngstown and Indiana coming up.
In Charlottesville, Virginia, no trouble with Bucknell.
10-1.
Liberty, Arkansas coming up.
Of course, that's the regional paired with USC. The Indiana regional is the one paired with the one here at Vanderbilt. Of course, you heard Maryland beating Old Dominion 4-3, and South Carolina and Campbell coming up. In Coral Gables, it was Texas Tech beating Columbia 3-2. Bethune-Cookman and Miami coming up. In Corvallis, Irvine and Vegas are 2-2 in the fourth.
North Dakota State, Oregon State coming up. Fort Worth Regional, Sam Houston State leads Dallas Baptist 2-1. Top of the ninth, Siena and TCU to come. In Gainesville, Long Beach State beat North Carolina 6-1. College of Charleston, Florida
coming up. Houston Regional, Texas now leading Texas A&M. This was a 1-1 game. It's now 7-1 Longhorns over the Aggies. That's in the sixth. George Mason and Rice coming up. Lafayette Regional, Mississippi State leading San Diego State 5-2. Jackson State and La to come. Louisville, they've had a lot of rain. They're in a delay. They're in the fifth. Kansas and Kentucky are tied at 6. Kent State, Louisville still to come. In the Oxford Regional, first game is not until 7 o'clock tonight. Georgia Tech and Washington, followed by Jacksonville State and Ole Miss. The San Luis Obispo Regional, Pepperdine 3-2 over Arizona State in the seventh. Sacramento State and Cal Poly to come. Stillwater, Cal State Fullerton beat Nebraska 5-1. Binghamton and Oklahoma State, they're coming up. Tallahassee Regional, Kennesaw. Kennesaw beat Alabama 1-0. And Georgia Southern and Florida State are coming up. So there you go. Alabama getting shut out by Kennesaw State.
I have an update here, top of the second. Georgia Southern 2, Florida State nothing.
Well,
At Tallahassee.
That would be certainly a shocker as well. I don't know who Florida State is throwing. I wonder if they are withholding their top gun. Thinking they were just going to waltz right through Georgia Southern. You got to be careful. And I'm sure there's some people who are saying, boy, Jack Leggett should have thrown his number one guy out there today. And, I mean, I don't know. Unless you strike out every Oregon batter. And they did. The Tigers did strike out 11 Oregon batters. Once they get on base, it's just turmoil out there. I'm telling you, it's like nothing I've really ever seen before. The way they just make a defense overreact and basically just nervous. You know, they make you nervous out there as a defensive player, trying to make a play on a bunt or on a steal or their attempt to take an extra base. Maryland used 2 pitchers in their game today. Jake Stinnett went 8 innings, and Taylor Stiles pitched the 9th and got the win. So they only used 2 of their hurlers today. We'll be right back.
One more question for the student athletes. I think they can swing it pretty well when they're all just baseball's a game of streaks, and they may have gone through a bad streak there, but you knew they were a pretty good team, and they proved it that. Matthew, please. If we could use the mic, thank you for that, and we can take the questions for the student athletes. Just a second. More questions, Coach Ryder, please. Just raise your hand. Jack, I know it's kind of slow. That guy. You got 15 runs and go through your game. That's tough to overcome. Jack, I know it's 4 games in a row. So our mindset is.
Make sure you give yourself some buffer time to send me that email.
Jack, I know it's kind of uncharacteristic.
All right, I'm getting ready to email you, Jack.
I got time to open it.
Yeah, I'm sending it right now. We'll send it back to you in the same email you sent to me.
Okay.
I got a text here. Hang on, bud. Here we got some players. Okay. All right, just sent to you, statement.
Okay.
I mean, just sent to you, statement.
Got
Whatever.
Is that a casual place or a rich place? I can go back and discuss this. What do you have any hoops? Is there anything else?
Okay, be careful. All right. Yeah. And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut in Nashville, where Clemson went down big today, 18-1 to Oregon. That's a season-high 20 hits for the Oregon team today. 2 homers, 3 triples, 4 doubles, and they rolled over Clemson, the number 2 seed Oregon team, over the number 3 Clemson team. So the Ducks are 43-18. Clemson falls to 36-24. Tyler Baumgartner, he was 3 for 6, a homer, 2 RBIs, scored 3 runs. Sean Chase, 2 for 5, a 3-run homer. Those are some of the standouts for Oregon today. And really, Clemson had 5 hits, all by the top 5 guys in their lineup. Each had a hit. and that meant the bottom part of their lineup didn't do much of anything. So a very bad day for Clemson. They'll try and rebound tomorrow, 2 o'clock, against the loser of Vanderbilt and Xavier, which will be getting underway at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Let's talk about some of the other things going on. A lot of stuff happening out of the SEC Pro. Let's begin. Well, no, before we do that, let me back up and talk about some game times here. Clemson, Georgia. They will open their season August 30th, 5:30 on ESPN. That announcement made today at the SEC meeting. So that's 5:30 for Clemson and Georgia. The Tigers will play South Carolina State.
Home opener at 12:30. Their November 6th game, a Thursday night game at Wake Forest, of course, is 7:30. So those are the game times we have for the Tigers. Meantime, the SEC announced today that USC's game against East Carolina will be televised nationally, ESPN2 or ESPNU, and that will be a 7 o'clock kickoff. So there you go with that one. So we know South Carolina will kick off at 6 o'clock against Texas A&M and 7 o'clock against East Carolina. Now to this stuff out of the SEC about the future. Mike Slive today made it clear that if the Power 5 folks don't get their way in terms of autonomy, then there'll be a Division 4. So I apparently threatening that group, the Power 5 conferences, will separate into a Division 4 and do their own thing. The president of Florida, Bernie Macon, is it Macon or Machen? Not Bernie Madoff. It was Bernie Machen. He said that there'll be a crisis if the Power 5 can't provide cost of attendance stipends that are the subjects of lawsuits. So that is the message that Slive left everyone with today. It's either give us the autonomy that we need to be able to provide full cost of attendance and those sort of things, or we'll go our own way, I guess, and form a Division 4 wing under, I don't know if it would be under the guise of the NCAA or what. USC President Harry Pastides, who's a member of the NCAA board and the governance steering committee, said he anticipates autonomy passing with what he called a few tweaks. He said, quote, I don't think it's a no-brainer or a slam dunk, but the indicators are everybody wants it to happen. If the Power 5 doesn't get the autonomy it wants, the NCAA and the 5 major conferences would face, quote, difficult times, according to Machen. Slive concluded the afternoon by saying, quote, I think the way to leave this here is if in August the board rejects the steering committee's recommendation, you should call me up. So the SEC, once again, talking about flexing its muscles and the muscles of the other major conferences and kind of doing their own thing, which is probably the right thing to do, Pro. I mean, this is the group of schools and the power conferences that over the years have had their hands tied by schools that don't share similar interests, don't share similar income, don't share similar expenses, yet they vote on things, those other schools vote on things that directly impact these schools, and that's what they're trying to get away from, is to have, like schools together voting on and deciding issues that affect them directly.
Well, that's been one of the bugaboos for years. I guess it's going on, 3 or 4 decades now, because first we remember the athletic dormitories, some of the other schools that didn't have that sort of money. Hey, these guys need a full college experience. You need to spread them out through dorms or whatever. And, of course, then the other schools said, well, we can't keep our eye on the guys that way, especially Kentucky made up a brouhaha about it because of the Wildcat Lodge and the fact that they made sure that nobody under 30 walked in there unless they had, credentials or a family member, that sort of thing, trying to keep them clear of agents and that sort of thing. Also, I guess the other thing that's going on is some of the schools that do not play football were voting on things involving big-time football schools, and you knew they were going to vote against certain issues that those schools wanted. Now, from Mike Slive's statement today, he's saying they're going to get what they want, either your way or my way, because he's saying, okay, fine, you can vote for what we want. If you don't, well, we'll form another division. So apparently he's making the statement that we're going to get what we want, whether you do it or not.
It was sort of an or else kind of statement, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
As he passed out the checks today for the 14 schools, where we have $309 million. They raised another $1.7 million. They could buy the Clippers. But they, I think, what is that, $20.9 million a team or something like that.
Correct, $20.9 million, $309.6 million of total distributions. That's the highest in SEC history. Of course it is. It goes up every year. That includes $292.8 million distributed from the conference office. Wonder who keeps an eye on that, all that money. I wonder if that was Charles Bloom's old job when he was in the SEC office, to sit on that pile of money and count it and make sure it was exactly right. So it comes out to $20.9 million. The league has gone from 5 years ago, they were $165.9 million. Then 2010, $233, 2011, $248, 2012, $256, 2013, $304. Only a $5 million raise this year to $309. But we'll see where it goes now with this SEC network and how much more money the league will make from that.
Well,
I want to mention, too.
I'm sorry, Cohen. Yeah, I was about to mention, if anybody complains about South Carolina and the SEC, the investment was a wise one, because South Carolina's entry fee in 1992 to get into the SEC was $50,000.
Yeah.
And that year they doled out $27 million among 12 teams. Now look at where they are.
Yeah, they've certainly made their money back from that and then some. I also wanted to mention, too, of course, lost in all our conversation about baseball and everything else, Clemson did get that commitment today from Deion Kane, the wide receiver from Tampa. We'll talk more about that coming up in our recruiting segment, but he becomes the 16th commitment for the Tigers 2015 class, and they stand to get number 17 tomorrow, as the Tigers are going to probably pick up the commitment from LaSamuel Davis from Bamberg Earhart, defensive end, and that'll happen tomorrow at his church, scheduled to be at around 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Davis 6'4", 216, and expected to commit to the Tigers. That'll be 17 for Clemson once that is done tomorrow. All right, we are going to hear from Jack Leggett coming up. We're going to hear from some of the Tigers as well. Obviously, they're a little shell-shocked after their 18-1 loss today. Nobody could have expected anything like that to happen, but as it does in baseball, sometimes when it starts to rain runs on you, it pours runs on you, and you're just sometimes helpless to do anything about it. All you can do is try to get those 27 outs and go home. And that's all Clemson can do once this one got away from them. We'll have that coming up in a little bit, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Yeah, we got quite the. I don't know what's going on my computers. I couldn't get. I put that link in, the embed link in 4 times, and it would never work. And then I come to my email to get that audio. And about a week's worth of emails that I deleted earlier in the day at another computer were still sitting in here. So something's going on. Just everything's moving slow, or I don't know.
Let's see. We don't have any Mike tonight, do we?
No.
Is that baseball? All right. So why don't we go
squeeze
with
Jack here?
Will he fit in this segment?
Well, I mean, not quite. He's a little long. I think he's like 6.5. Let's see. He's 6:40. We got a 6-minute segment, so I'd have to cut about a minute out.
Let's do the players.
Players are 4:25.
They'll fit, won't they?
Yeah.
Matthew, you said yesterday you were worried about.
This is a 6-minute segment?
Correct.
All right, so I got time to do a spot.
Yep. Yeah, we got 4 of those things.
Did you notice my banner?
Yes, I did. I made a comment on that earlier. It's hilarious.
I thought that was appropriate.
Jack makes the best angry, disappointed memes, as it were. His mannerisms are on point.
Mm-hmm.
Behind counts, and they took advantage of it.
Had a little bit there in those innings when you struggled?
Well, I don't remember saying anything about. Well, I don't remember saying anything about worried about it, but I mean, give them credit. They swung the bats pretty well.
Is one of the sick in the back, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Stand by.
All right, USC and Campbell getting ready to get underway over at Carolina Stadium. We'll check back in with K-Mac shortly, get another scene setter from him over at Carolina Stadium in just a moment. We'll hear from some of the Tiger players from today's loss to Oregon. The current Powerball jackpot, $173 million. Be sure to purchase Power Play for an extra $1 for a chance to increase your winnings from the South Carolina Education Lottery. We'll hear from Clemson coach Jack Leggett in the next hour. Let's hear from a couple of Tigers, Matthew Crownover and Steve Wilkerson. They came to speak to the media today after the Tigers took that 18-1 whipping at the hands of Oregon. And let's go and listen to what the players had to say as they took questions from the media.
I don't remember saying anything about worried about it, but I mean, give them credit. They swung the bats pretty well. I had threw a couple pitches that I like to have back today, and they took advantage of them. I threw a couple balls that were, borderline, got behind counts, and they took advantage of it. You got to give them all the credit.
Matthew, the last couple of years, you've been so consistent and steady. Do you ever imagine an outing like this?
No, this is not something you dream about. It's baseball. It happens. I picked a heck of a day for it to happen, but it's baseball. I credit myself about being pretty consistent. But today they were the better team.
Question from the right here.
Steve, it looked like you guys might be able to get more than one run there in the first inning. Bowler's double kind of goes under the wall there. Do you think if maybe that had bounced a little bit different, get multiple runs, it could have been a different outcome?
Who knows? We did get a tough break there, and I was come up to first base, crossing the plate, but it was the right call, and it was a tough break for us. But who knows what happens if we get a couple extra runs there, change the game a little bit. But it is what it is.
For either of you guys, like Coach Leggett mentioned, the defense just wasn't there. I mean, can you put your finger on what was going on with Oregon, especially looking like they were trying to irritate on the base paths?
Yeah, I mean, they got a lot going with the bunt game. It's kind of the game they play, West Coast style, and the bottom line was they executed what they were doing, and they put the ball in the right spot, and we were ready for it, and we had a game plan for it, and they just executed a little bit better than we did.
Question front right. Steve, can you just kind of describe the feeling of what it's like to be a part of that when kind of just a few negatives really start to snowball on you, so to speak, and you just kind of can't get the bleeding stopped?
Yeah, it's not an ideal feeling. At some points you just feel helpless, and they kind of got you on your toes. You're leaning one way or the other. But yeah, it's not a good feeling.
Matthew, just why do you think today was one of those days where you just couldn't get it to go? Was it anything in particular, or on your end, what was going through your mind?
I mean, the first inning I had pretty good fastball command. Then second inning, I mean, I've got the guy on the ropes, and threw, 3 pretty good cutters the first inning, and I go to it again, which I trust in it, and threw one up. The leadoff guy got on, and that kind of hurt me getting the leadoff guy on. I think the 2 innings they scored multiple runs was got leadoff guy on. That's one thing that me and Coach Pep and pitching staff try to control is first pitch strikes and first guy of every inning, and it really hurt us. The 2 innings they scored a lot of runs. That's had a lot to do with it.
2 or 3 more questions. Go right ahead, sir.
Steve, with this loss, I guess y'all need to win 4 games in 3 days, to get out of this regional. As one of the seniors, what do you tell your teammates about the mindset you got to have?
You just got to believe. Everyone's got to believe, and everyone's got to be 100% behind all your teammates in every part of the game. Every at bat, every pitch, defense, offense, everything, and we just got to believe in each other and believe in ourselves. And our mindset is we're going to win 4 games, and we think we can do it.
More questions to the student athletes? One back in the back, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind.
The last couple of weeks, Oregon's bats had kind of been relatively quiet, especially last week against Cal. Was it at all surprising that they came out like this?
This question for
Matthew. I mean, they're pretty good hitting. I mean, I know their average was down, but they were a 2 seed for a reason. I think they proved they can swing it pretty well when they're on. Just baseball's a game of streaks, and they may have gone through a bad streak there, but you knew they were a pretty good hitting team, and they proved it today.
All right, there you go. Matthew Crownover and Steve Wilkerson talking with the media after the Tigers take that 18-1 loss today. Again, Crownover only lasted 3 2/3, threw 87 pitches. So, I don't know if he could come back, if the Tigers could stretch this thing out to Monday. Could he come back Saturday, Sunday? Maybe just a little bit. But it was a tough day all the way around for Clemson baseball today as they fall 18-1 to the Oregon Ducks, and we'll be right back.
Might be on cutting the question out. I was doing the normal thing and didn't even think you'd already cut it up. As soon as I heard your lead in that didn't make any sense, I knew as soon as I hit the audio I'd screwed that up. How long do you want to save Jag till 15, I guess? 14?
South Carolina and Campbell coming up in just a few minutes over at the Carolina Stadium. Already over there today, Maryland has beaten Old Dominion 4-3 to move forward in the winner's bracket. What a year Maryland is having in baseball, their first trip to the NCAA tournament since 1971, and they're trying to make the most of it. Speaking of making the most out of things, do you want more out of your education? Well, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. To find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. A few more notes from the SEC meeting. Sandstorm and other noise-type things, noise makers and music. SEC schools will now be able to play music or pipe-in noise, and fans will be able to use artificial noise makers at all times, except from the moment the center goes over the ball to the time the play is blown dead. And good luck getting those cowbells to go quiet at the time the center goes over the ball. The SEC will now allow schools to administer the waiver process for incoming graduate transfers at an institutional level, which should speed up the process and eliminate a concern of coaches that some athletes were going to play in other conferences simply so as to avoid what could be a 3-week wait for the conference office to administer the waiver process. If the school misapplies the process, the team would have to wait 3 years before being able to handle another waiver request on its own. The conference wants the current signing day calendar to remain in place, but will suggest a 1-day early signing period the Monday after Thanksgiving. If a change is made at the NCAA level, only players who have taken no official visits would be eligible for that early signing period under the SEC's plan. And they took no action on the idea of selling alcohol within their stadiums and arenas around the SEC. Those notes from Josh Kendall of GoGamecocks.com. We head over to Carolina Stadium now, where the Gamecocks are about to take on Campbell. Let's get a final scene setter from K-Mac. What you got, K-Mac?
Yeah, the fans pouring into their seats. Now we're just a couple minutes away. The lineups have been done, and the national anthem has been played, and we're about to have first pitch here at Carolina Stadium between the Camels and the Gamecocks.
How's the weather look?
You know, it looks pretty good. Partly cloudy, definitely a humid night, a warm night, but checking the forecast, looks a lot better than it did this time last night when they were calling for about 60% chance of rain. Now, very little chance of rain. I think we've missed some of those scattered thunderstorms, and very good chance of getting this thing in uninterrupted, as I hope I don't jinx. I'm knocking on wood.
Yeah, upside the head, I would say. Yeah. All right, K-Mac, settle in, and we'll get back to you throughout the next hour of the program. Jack Leggett coming up, the full Monty on NASCAR 2 and recruiting in our next hour.
All right. We can do Monty at 7:30, correct? Do Monty at 7:30, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. All right, stand by. Here we go.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Sports Talk continues here on a Friday night. Phil Kornblut in Nashville may not be here much longer. Clemson's got one more chance to stay alive tomorrow at 2 o'clock against either Xavier or Vanderbilt. South Carolina and Campbell just getting underway over at Carolina Stadium. K-Mac is there for that. The Pro is back in our studios in downtown Columbia. In Tallahassee, Georgia Southern continues to lead Florida State. 2-0 is the score in that one. They're in the top of the third inning. Already an upset there as Kennesaw State shut out Alabama 1-0. Qualifying today at Dover, Brad Keselowski wins the pole, 164.444. Then it was Kyle Busch, 163.7. Joey Logano, Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Larson. They round out the top five. Then it was Jeff Gordon, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Brian Vickers, and Clint Boyer. Your top 10. Dale Jr. qualified 13th. We'll get more from Monty Dutton coming up just a little bit. Meantime, in the second round of play of the Memorial in Ohio, of course, Rory McIlroy got off to the great start yesterday with a 63. Not so good today, but Bubba Watson had another good day. 66 yesterday, 69 today. Watson leads at the halfway point at -9. Chris Kirk is at 8 under. Hideki Matsuyama and Martin Flores, they're at 7 under. So that's the top of your leaderboard. As far as others that we check on every week, Scott Brown, a 69. He's 5 under. Bill Haas, a 67. He's at 4 under, as is Luke Donald. Jordan Spieth is at 3 under, along with Dustin Johnson, who had a 68 today. McIlroy from a 63 yesterday to a 78 today, a 15-shot swing for McIlroy, and he's at 3 under. Kevin Kisner's at 3 under. He had a 72. Phil Mickelson, 2 under after a 70. Kyle Stanley makes the cut with a 68. He's 2 under. Ernie Els at 2 under. Lucas Glover makes a rare cut. 73 for him. He's at -1. Ben Martin, Russell Henley, Bill McGirt, South Carolinians who did not make the cut for the weekend. All right. Am I missing anything, Pro? Have I missed anything important? Is there an NBA game tonight? I think there is.
There is an NBA game tonight. I think Indiana may have just delayed the inevitable for 48 hours. The Heat with a 3-2 lead coming in. Of course, LeBron James, I think his lowest output in a playoff game, 7 points. Set most of the second half or the middle second and third quarters on the bench with 4 and then 5 fouls. So it'll be interesting to see how the game is officiated tonight in Miami.
You know, I hate these teams like the Heat, these Johnny-come-latelys, Oklahoma City, where all the fans wear the same colored T-shirts that are laid out for them. You don't see that in L.A. with the Lakers. You don't see that in Boston with the Celtics.
You see it in North Korea.
Well, there you go. That's another reason not to like it.
You a big fan of the North Korean national team there, Pro? Who's their same shirt or you shot? Who's the North Korean national team star point guard? Kim Jong Cassell or something like that? I remember reading an article early 2000s in Sports Illustrated on like somebody taking a tour of like some major building having to do with where a lot of Saddam's people were, and they went down into some pit and there was like 3 or 4 soccer players hanging upside down that had bungled one of their World Cup games or something. Like straight torture. You miss a shot, you hang upside down. Yes, I do. I'm not going to cut them.
It was obviously a rough day for us, we just
That's probably what screwed me up last time, because I listened to it first, and his opening was just no question. Then I assumed I wanted to do it with the players, and that was a no-no. Want to try to squeeze another spot here? Where do you get 2 more to go? 6:45. All right. Remember to stay safe on your boats. If you're going to drive forward at a safe speed. Don't drink. If you're going to jump out, have a life jacket on. It will make you float if you lose consciousness. All right, stand by.
Well, they're underway over at Carolina Stadium, and Campbell did get a couple of base runners on. They had a couple of hits in the top of the first, but Gamecocks get out of it with a ground ball to second base, so they go to the bottom of the first, no score. Jordan Montgomery, however, giving up 2 hits in the top of the first, but leaving both runners on base. He needs a strong outing after struggling in his last outing at the SEC tournament. Going to hear from Clemson coach Jack Leggett in just a moment. Hey, when you're out on the water, of course, we want you to have fun. Everybody wants to have fun, but please, we remind you, never drink and drive your boat. This is not an SEC athletic event, so don't bring your booze into your boat and don't drink and drive at the same time. You're going to get into a lot of trouble. You may injure somebody. Always designate a driver and always wear your life jacket. Let's make it through the summer safely so you can get to those SEC and ACC games. And if they do pass the rule that you can purchase alcoholic beverages at the SEC venues, then you can have a good time. But then make sure you don't drive home after you do that. You get the point. Don't drink and drive, whether it's on the road or on the lake or in a boat. It's just not good. It's just not safe. All right. I hate to say it, but Jack Leggett could have used a strong drink this afternoon. He may have gone to find one somewhere on Broadway here in Nashville at one of the honky tonks, because seldom has he seen his team kicked around like it was today by Oregon. 18-1. Here's Jack.
It was obviously a rough day for us. We just started out pretty good, and then fourth, fifth, and sixth inning, I think that's where we ran into trouble, controlling their bunt game, run game, and that kind of thing. And so we just weren't able to defend as well as we needed to at that point. And the bottom line is they out hit us, out pitched us, outplayed us, and the good thing is it's regardless of what the score is, it's one game. I've been here before. I've been here. 1999, we lost 22-6 in the first game of regional, came back, won 4 games in a row. So our mindset is this one's behind us, we're going to move on to the next one.
Jack, I know it's kind of uncharacteristic for Matthew to have the kind of outing you did today. Can you talk about what you saw from your perspective?
Just getting behind a little bit, I think, and just had a couple pitches in the wrong place, and I think got bothered a little bit with people on base in the bunt game. We had a couple opportunities and a couple safety squeezes to have the guys at the plate, didn't get them. And that was it becomes a big thing because now we're safe at the plate, and then you get an extra out that we normally would have had. So it extended the innings, and then we had a couple, and then a couple innings after that to give up 15 runs in the middle 3 innings, and that's tough to overcome. But once Matthew got out of there, it was going to be tough for us to maybe pull that one out, and we gave up a few runs probably that we didn't want to give up, obviously, but at the same time, you start thinking a little bit about what you got to do tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that, So they hit the ball. They hit the ball well today. They executed well. They ran the bases good. We thought it'd be a good matchup, and I think it could have been. We just didn't feel our position as well as we needed to in some instances, and got ourselves behind the 8 ball. And once it started rolling, And they're a type of team, just as we are. If we get hot, we can put a lot of pressure on and run the bases and those kinds of things, and they were able to do that. So I've been around a long time, been on both sides of it, been on the other side of it where you can't stop it. It's going so good you can't stop it. But tomorrow's a new day for them. Tomorrow's a new day for us.
Jack, you alluded to in '99 you lost the opening game of a regional in a similar fashion and came back to win it in Fayetteville. What does it take to grind out 4 straight wins after a loss like this?
Well, the immediate thing is you got to put this one behind you. This one festers for a long period of time. It'll fester right into tomorrow. So, my message to the team is it's over. You could have lost 5-3, 7-1, lost on walk-off. There's a number of ways of losing badly that feel bad, and this is embarrassing, and it's just not the way you would want to lose a ball game. But at the same time, we would love to have won the game, didn't win the game, so we've got to put the loss behind us right now. We've got to be ready to play tomorrow. Nobody can they can't take any runs into tomorrow. We can't take tomorrow into tomorrow, today into tomorrow. So to me, it's you got to wipe the slate. You wipe the slate clean, and you better wipe it clean really quick.
Question here to the right.
Coach, considering that these, they're young men, but they're kids, what was your message to them just as soon as that game was over to try and get them back and kind of out of that mindset a little bit?
It's obviously it was a very frustrating long game. It lasted a long time because things weren't going well for us. But so I was thinking about what I need to tell my team, and that at the end of the game, it's over. It's got to be over. We got to think about what we got to do tomorrow, what our routine is tomorrow, and get our mindset ready to play tomorrow. And it's simple as that. We're going to play somebody who loses a tough game tonight. It could be, one of the 2 teams tonight's going to lose, and they got to get up early in the morning. They got to play us, and so we've got to recover faster than they recover, and we've got to be ready to play. So can't let it fester. I'm not going to sit here and try to figure out. I don't like the score of it, but I tell you what, it'd be just as hard to be sitting here. If we want to walk-off hit or a 5-3 loss or a 7-5 loss or 4-3. It'd be just as tough to sit here. So this has got to get beyond us and get ready to play tomorrow.
Question from the back.
Jack, I know you said that you guys are prepared for what Oregon does, but now after seeing it in person, were they better at doing what they do than you expected coming in?
I really expected to see what I saw. I just expected us to handle it a little bit better. And I expected us to be able to handle the ball and get the guys out the plate because they weren't exceptional bunts. They were just bunts that we knew were coming, and if we did, we just didn't handle them. And so I expected us to handle a little bit better than we did. I kind of thought that that's the type of team they would be if they got in a roll. And, they started running the bases a little bit and taking advantage of the fact that Matthew's left-handed when they were ahead in the count, ahead in the game, and things started to speed up on us a little bit, and we got ourselves in trouble. So that was, that's how it went, and I think it's, I think Stevie made a good statement. He says we expected them to do what they did. They just did it very well today, and we didn't handle it very well.
Coach, first off, is still planning to go with Gossett tomorrow, and then also of all the teams you've had that have been in this situation had to come back, does this team have the kind of makeup to go back and recover and win 4 games in 3 days?
Well, that's the plan. I think they do. I believe that they do, and they got to believe that they can. And so my mindset right now is focused on winning tomorrow's game, first ball game, and giving ourselves an opportunity on Sunday and Monday. And so I think the next game we play is the most important game we got going on our schedule. So my idea is to make them believe that they can do it. And I've been there probably a lot more than they have, so I believe a little bit more, maybe. But they're also a lot more resilient than most kids, than older people. So I think they'll be ready to go, and I'm excited about that opportunity tomorrow.
Well, there is a tomorrow. That's the good thing about double elimination. 1 defeat does not end your season. They'll have a chance to come back tomorrow. They'll have Daniel Gossett going on the mound. He's been outstanding, of course, all season long for the Tigers, and he'll have to be outstanding tomorrow against either Xavier or Vanderbilt if the Tigers are going to stay alive this season. Meantime, over at USC, let's see, the Gamecocks have a couple of singles to open things up in the bottom half of the first inning, so they've got a threat going on right now. Pro looks like they've got the bases full.
Wow. Well, see, this is the opportunity you have to go for the throat early. A lot of times when you cough up opportunities, they come back to haunt because you wish you'd come up with a big hit. Similar to what happened to Campbell in the first inning, get 2 runners on against South Carolina. You got to make some hay there. Phil, I was just thinking about Oregon and the way they played today. In the majors, a catcher will call timeout, the pitcher start messing with the rosin bag, throw people's timing off. You can't do that in college. So what kind of ways do you throw a team like Oregon off by kind of throwing the timing, maybe changing your pace of your delivery on each pitch or whatever? There's got to be some way somebody's thinking about it now that they've seen it at the regional.
Yeah, well, Clemson and Jack Leggett couldn't figure it out today. Maybe the next team up will. Back in a moment.
Brought from Florida at the Women's College World Series just took the Oregon pitcher deep. Oregon, that is. I'm sure to tweet that out. Correct Monday, we did actually. Help us with corn's insensitivity. Explain this. Yeah, that looked like that hurt. She just came back and plunked the next batter on purpose, I'm sure. I think she spit at her first. Oh, it came off the helmet. I thought it came off the wrist. I was kind of surprised she didn't fall down and cry a little bit. If she took that thing off the wrist, that'd probably be the end of her day. All right, stand by.
All right, South Carolina's off to a good start over at Carolina Stadium against Campbell. The Gamecocks have 2 on the board in the bottom of the first. They've got 3 hits, and it was Kyle Martin singling through the right side, getting the 2 RBIs in. Bases were loaded, and so USC up 2-0. And, yeah, that's, pro from a Gamecock standpoint. If they could have that kind of night where they get off to a good start and get some of their regulars out, get Montgomery out of the ball game after maybe 4 or 5 innings, if you have that kind of lead. Now, I noticed that with Oregon today, they stuck with their pitcher, Thorpe. He pitched into the 7th inning. There was no rush to really get him out of there. And, I guess maybe managers, coaches feel like after they've thrown a certain number of pitches, you're not going to be able to bring them back on short rest in the series. Go ahead and leave them out there, even though the game is well out of hand. I wonder how, if this happens in this case, not saying this game's going to get out of hand like that, but I wonder how South Carolina, how Jerry Myers and Chad Holbrook will approach how they're going to handle Montgomery in the pitching tonight.
Well, it'll be interesting. I think it's a little bit different with Oregon in that if I'm reading this correctly, if I've read the article on Oregon, that Thorpe was really not in the plans to start early in the season. In fact, he was not, I think, in the rotation, and then he became a Friday starter because of injuries. So I don't know, maybe they wanted to take a look at him a little bit longer and let him stay out there, because they said as long as he's out there and gains experience, it's all for the good for him. So maybe that was in the thinking. As for Montgomery, he's a veteran, so if they think he can, with the bullpen that South Carolina has, if they think they can come back with him if need be, they may snatch him in the 5th or 6th inning.
We'll get an update from K-Mac from over at Carolina Stadium in just a little bit. Also, Monty Dutton will join us. We'll talk a little NASCAR with Monty heading into this weekend of racing at Dover. So still much to come, including our recruiting report. We'll talk more about Deion Kane's commitment to Clemson by all accounts, and in talking with his coach, and we had information on him from his coach yesterday. He's a special type of athlete. He's got good size. He's a quarterback, but he'll be a receiver at Clemson. He's a leader. He's got excellent physical tools, the hands, the jumping ability. But the thing the coach liked about him the most was his leadership roles and the way he just assumes command of the situation with his football team. So that's another big pickup for Clemson. Their recruiting has gone extremely well this spring, and they're just bringing in one highly sought-after player after another, and they'll pick up another one tomorrow in LaSamuel Davis from Bamberg Earhart. He'll become the Tigers' 18th commitment tomorrow, because he's going to announce about 11 o'clock in the morning for Clemson. So Tigers are piling up the very good commitments. South Carolina this weekend will have one of their top targets on campus for another visit. Offensive lineman from Virginia, Austin Clark, coming in for one more look at South Carolina before he makes his decision. Tennessee's heavily involved. Virginia Tech's in there as well. Virginia, he will announce on June the 10th. And USC also having an excellent year, so both the Tigers and Gamecocks have a lot to feel good about from a recruiting standpoint. Be right back.
can assuredly multitask. All right, stop.
A good start for the Gamecocks in their regional opener against Campbell at Carolina Stadium. It was 2-0. Last updates we gave you. Let's go to K-Mac, who is on the scene for a more up-to-date update. K-Mac.
Yes, it is now 3-0 Gamecocks. DC Arendas with his first sack fly of the season to make it 3-0. The Gamecocks went down after that, so we are in the top of the second inning. And it is 3-0. 3-3-1 for the Gamecocks. 0-2-0 for the Camels. At one error, Joey Pancake throwing wide of first base on the leadoff hitter of this inning for an error. That's an all-SEC defensive player, Joey Pancake, I should note, with the error there. A lot of people were wondering how he got on that all-defensive team, and I think after that play they might be wondering a little bit more. But all is well right now for the Gamecocks, leading this one 3-0 in the second.
All right, pretty obvious, K-Mac. They come out of the gate aggressive at the plate against Campbell's starter.
Yeah, I mean, that first three guys reaching base, Marcus Mooney, Max Schrock, who is playing, I'll tell you, his back still looks like it's less than 100%. He wasn't rolling around those bases real fast, but he did get on with a base hit. And Joey Pancake do the walk, and then Kyle Martin, little chopper that just got over the first baseman's gloves. And that plated the first two runs for the Gamecocks, kind of opened things up for them.
Montgomery gave up a couple of hits in the first inning, but got out of it with any damage. How did he look?
He looked pretty good, other than the two-out singles that he gave up. He was very sharp in that first inning. He struck out a batter in the second inning here, so he's looking like the guy that we've seen now go 25-plus innings without giving up an earned run in the postseason. He's been spectacular in postseason games. The last run that he gave up in the postseason, by the way, you have to go all the way back to that regional against Clemson in the first game that went extra innings that the Gamecocks came back to win. That's the last time he gave up a run.
Thank you, K-Mac. We'll catch you one more time before we sign off. The Gamecocks up 3-0 on Campbell over at Carolina Stadium. All right, let's welcome in. We go from talking about one Monty, Jordan Montgomery, to bringing in the real full Monty Dutton, our NASCAR expert here on Sports Talk, longtime NASCAR sports writer, of course, lives in Clinton, South Carolina. So this is always a sad weekend for me, Monty. You want to know why?
Sure.
It's the weekend that we say goodbye to Fox and their NASCAR coverage, and they hand off to the other people, whether it's TBS or TNT, yeah, then eventually
TNT right
ESPN.
now.
Yeah,
this is the last year of that. Next year, Fox will have 3 more races, and then they turn it over to NBC.
So I want to ask you your thoughts about that, about the different networks that handle NASCAR. Do you have your personal favorite?
Actually, I don't think so, because I have to say that, by this time of year, I'm kind of tired of kind of like the Larry Mack and Darrell Waltrip, real folksy, coverage. I mean, I'm just saying that it gets. I'm ready. I'm sort of ready for a change by this time.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I mean, it is amusing at times, and then it's also amusing because, they make sort of misstatements that are hilarious sometimes, particularly McReynolds. He says things like, such as, see them flaps on the roof? Them's roof flaps. Things like that.
Mr. Obvious.
I think you'll find that the 28 car, he always says that 28 car, is going to take at least 2 right side tires. Well, I hope they don't take 3, that type of thing.
Yeah. Which brings me to another subject. After watching Indy and after watching the Coke 600 over the weekend, I mean, I was really amazed by the pit stops in Indy. 8 seconds, 8.4 seconds, the hydraulic lifts on the cars to jack them up, the 4 guys going over the wall, 1 for each tire, how quickly they get it done. Do you think NASCAR should adopt some of the same pit stop philosophies of Indy, or is what NASCAR does on pit stops good enough?
Well, I think that NASCAR, obviously, the reason that Indy cars and Formula One cars are so much faster is because they allow greater technology. NASCAR limits, they have to pour the gas in from cans. They have to, I think that NASCAR likes pit stops to be kind of like watching some team run a trap play. I think that all the people running around the car and the stock car racing has changed because it used to be the guys who made the pit stops were the guys who worked on the cars. Now the guys who are on the pit stops are the guys who got cut by the Canadian Football League.
Yes.
And so I think that both of them have their virtues. It's just kind of like in general, IndyCar racing and Formula One racing is much more a contest of technology, and I think that the fans are more appreciative of that. I think that NASCAR is much more partisan, and people sort of the attraction are the drivers and the personalities. And so it's much more partisan. Because, like if you go to the Indy 500, if people's favorite driver doesn't win, they still like to see a nice show, a good show, a nice thing like that. And NASCAR, they'll fight you if their guy doesn't win. So I think that the pit stop it sort of lines up perfectly. This
kind
is
of falls in line with the philosophy.
This is something that only occurred to me this very moment.
Right, exactly. We like spontaneity here on Sports Talk. All right, so what are you hearing out of Dover today and heading into the weekend? What are people talking about? Brad Keselowski, he's on the pole. Kyle Busch is next. Then Joey Logano, Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Larson. What's the talk around Dover as we head into this weekend?
Well, once again, the all-time leader at Dover is Jimmy Johnson. In fact, he's coming off a victory. It's sort of like the chronic overreaction of sports, where 1 week ago, oh my gosh, Johnson hasn't won. What's wrong? And then, of course, he wins a race, and now it's, of course, it's a foregone conclusion. It's over now. Things are never as bad as they seem. It's never as, when you're on top of the world, things are really never that good, and when you're not doing well, things are not that bad. So patience is a virtue that's lacking in sports, and it's lacking by everybody, from athletes to fans to media members. But certainly, I never thought Johnson had much of a problem to begin with, because if he hadn't been running fast, it would have been more symptomatic of problems than just the fact that things didn't work out and he hadn't won a race. So I think he is the favorite. I think that as we watch the Kyle Busch inevitable victory of a truck race is going on right now.
Yeah.
I think that if there's a truck race going on and you were someplace where you could bet, I think you'd have to bet $200 to win $1.85 on Kyle Busch to win in a truck race.
He is that good. His overall win total for all NASCAR events, he is eventually going to set the record for the most wins on the trucks and Sprint Cup and Nationwide. He's going to eventually break that record, isn't he?
Well, if you combine the three,
yeah,
it is possible, but he would have to win 200, which is, of course, ludicrous because Petty won that in Cup alone, But that obviously, it's just kind of like the combination of the Aaron brothers and homers, Hank 755 and Tommy with 1,
Yeah.
But I think that, first of all, it's a remarkable achievement what he does. But it would be more remarkable, with all respect, if anybody else tried. Nobody else goes out there and runs 3 races on one weekend. And thank goodness he does it. But, if there were 30 drivers trying to do it and he won all these races, it would be more impressive than the fact that he wins a lot of races because, he's obviously the top dog, best equipment, everything else. He's a great driver. But, I don't think you can really I think you have to judge people on the basis of Cup performance, which is very impressive. But, he certainly doesn't dominate every level like he does nationwide, particularly trucks.
Sure.
He's going for his 5th straight win in trucks.
Yeah. Monty, thank you so much, my man. Have a great weekend watching the race, and we'll catch you next Friday night.
I look forward to it as always, Phil.
Thank you so much. The full Monty on NASCAR here on Sports Talk. Our good buddy Monty Dutton, who knows all, tells all about NASCAR with us on Friday nights, and we'll be back. We've got recruiting coming up.
Well, Monty definitely knows the stock car. One thing I love about women's sports is that when they pull like the most simple feat that a male can, like a la dunk a basketball, the whole place has to stop and get a standing ovation for 20 minutes. At the same time, in the Women's College World Series, Corn, as it's aptly titled, they just turned a double play, and the whole place just like stopped and fell out.
That's fantastic.
Like something you see like 9 times in a Major League Baseball game every night. they pull it off. It's like, oh my God, how did that happen? Jeez, put it on SportsCenter.
I mentioned
between bases are very short in softball. That's why it's more difficult.
I know, I get it. I got it, but I'm just saying.
Just want to let you know
I'm
that.
well aware of the differences. I'm just saying.
Just let you know that it's compressed.
I'm not saying it's an easy task. I get it. It's very, very rare.
And I just like to steal here.
What keeps buzzing in my phone?
I'll also have you know, since you're defending them, Pro, after Florida's first K, they now have to do the catcher and the pitcher have to meet halfway in between and do like a fist bump. I hope you're happy. I considered that. I'm not stupid. All it takes is one person to go deep, and next thing you know, you're in their heads. Presumably, she's one of the better pitchers in the country, too, if not the best. Still got one more spot all day there, Sugar. And Lauren Krieger looks like she can put a drive into one. That's Florida's thing, is the cunning of the fake bunt. The chick that went deep did the exact same thing. Ooh, look, I'm bunting. Oh, I put it back. I'm cunning. Look at the guile. Stand by.
South Carolina still up 3-0 on Campbell, bottom of the second, Carolina Stadium. We'll give you an update on that game from KMAC a little bit later on. We'll also update some other games from around regional play this evening. In fact, one that stands out in my mind is that game in Tallahassee. Let's take a quick check and see what's happening there between Georgia Southern and Florida State. Top of the fifth, Georgia Southern continues to lead 2-0 over Florida State. We'll give you more scores from around the country coming up in just a little bit. Let's get into the recruiting report tonight. So we begin with Clemson getting the commitment from Deion Kane this afternoon, wide receiver, quarterback, but a wide receiver for the Tigers, 6'1", 190. Narrowed his list to Clemson, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and LSU. Made his announcement for Dabo Swinney's program during a ceremony at the school. Clemson offered him in December of 2013. He visited earlier this year, and from that point, Clemson became a major factor. As I mentioned, he also plays quarterback. Last season, he passed for nearly 2,000 yards and 13 touchdowns, while rushing for over 700 yards and 4 touchdowns. His coach, Jason Roberts, says he's probably the most athletic kid I've ever coached. The number of things he can do as a receiver, run, jump. I've never seen a kid so comfortable with the ball in the air. He just plucks the ball out of the air. Kind of sounds like a Sammy Watkins to me. He's also a very good leader, according to his coach. He becomes Clemson's 16th commitment for the 2015 class, and the Tigers are expected to add number 17 on Saturday in defensive end LaSamuel Davis of Bamberg Earhart. Running back Tyson Williams of Crestwood has a top 5 still. USC, Clemson, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Notre Dame. Nothing has changed with that. He does not expect any changes in the future. He says he's just sticking with those 5. He wants to make a decision before the season, but does not have a favorite. He said all are recruiting him hard. He's just keeping an even keel. None of the recruiters were by this week. Last week, Clemson, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and Georgia were in. Robbie Caldwell, Tony Elliott from Clemson stopped by. USC recruiter Deke Adams was by the previous week, and the two have also talked on the phone. Williams has no visits planned for now. He'll try to visit his schools this summer. USC remains in the top 4 for running back Travion Samuel. Phoenix City, Alabama, hasn't revealed that list yet, but he said the Gamecocks are strong with him, says he's maintaining a good relationship with his recruiter, Grady Brown, and he's going to visit USC this summer. He's been to USC twice before, but he's never been to a game. He'd like to take an official visit to USC during the season. He could commit sometime in December, is planning to graduate early. Florida State and California are 2 others he plans to visit over the summer. His offers include USC, Clemson, Alabama, Auburn, California, Florida, Florida State, LSU, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Louisville, and Duke, and he's not naming any favorites. A couple of 2016 guys to talk about. Reggie Hemphill, who is an athlete, one of the top ones in the state of Texas for 2016, and he has put out his top 10. He listed them 1 through 10. Number 1, Baylor, followed by Clemson, Texas A&M, Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, Maryland, Notre Dame, and UCLA. And also defensive end Janarius Robinson. Now, he's out of Florida, and he has South Carolina and Clemson on his list of schools that he plans to visit this summer. Again, he's a 2016 guy and will visit South Carolina and Clemson this summer. In basketball, 6'9" Georgia Tech transfer Robert Carter Jr. will make an official visit to USC Saturday and Sunday, and this is a serious stop. He has real interest in the Gamecocks, his AAU coach told us, and in particular with Frank Martin. His AAU coach, Winfred Jordan, told us that a couple of years ago, Carter had an opportunity to try out for the USA junior national team, and that's where he and Martin created a relationship. And he said as Carter sat down with his list of schools, he said South Carolina was always in his top 5. Carter has been to St. John's. He'll visit Maryland Tuesday, and he'll schedule a visit to Kansas. Carter wants to enroll for the second session of summer school, so Jordan said he could have a decision within another week or so. Of course, Carter had an accomplished ACC career at Georgia Tech for 2 seasons. He averaged 11 points and 8 rebounds per game this past season. So he knows wherever he goes, he can step in and play right away. But what he's looking for, according to Jordan, is a place where he feels like he can be developed and made into the player who can make it to the NBA level. Carter will visit USC and Maryland by himself. Of course, he'll have to sit out this season, and he'll have 2 years of eligibility remaining. There you go with recruiting for tonight here on Sports Talk. Don't forget you can check it out all the time on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter. Follow our notes at hashtag STRecruiting.
Do my final spot here, Mr. Corn. Okay. I ain't never been this sore. 2.5 miles for the first time in 2 months. Yep. Feel every muscle in my butt. All right, I got Kevin McCray on the line. Stand by. Don't forget my spot. Yep.
Okay, we'll give you one more update from Carolina Stadium in just a moment, and we'll take a look around the rest of the regional play going on this evening in just a moment. You want more from your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. You can find out more by visiting palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. Back over to Carolina Stadium, the Gamecocks in regional play earlier today. Maryland beat Old Dominion 4-3. So Maryland awaits the winner of this one. Gamecocks have the early lead. K-Mac, what's the latest?
Yes, Corn, I've been getting used to the hashtag for Campbell. It's Roll Camels, their mascot, which is a little bizarre. But they need to start rolling right now. They trail 3-0. The home team, the Gamecocks on top, 3 runs on 4 hits, 1 error. No runs on 2 hits for the Camels, no errors. And, Jordan Montgomery doing what he does in the postseason has been very efficient. He has thrown a little over 40 pitches right now, but he has been very effective, worked around a couple of 2-out singles in the first inning and worked around a leadoff error by Joey Pancake that stranded a runner on third. So he's been able to avoid giving up that big hit and keeping the Camels at bay. Nobody's carrying the water for these Camels right now, Corn.
Been saving that one all day, I'm sure, K-Mac.
All right. I could have said something about getting over the hump, but that's too easy. I wasn't carrying the water.
Well, you used that last night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to say use one cliche at a time.
I was going to say something like, should the Gamecocks go ahead and win by a wide margin, you could say that the Gamecocks smoked Camels on Friday night. Mm-hmm.
Leave your camel alone.
All right, thank you, K-Mac. And or maybe we should do something along the lines of, hey, what day is this?
No,
hey,
that's what day it is. Mike.
It's hump day. All right, taking a look at some other regionals. Games in action. Indiana leading Youngstown State 3-1. Top of the third. Liberty and Arkansas 1-1. Bottom of the second. And let's see. Miami and Bethune-Cookman scoreless. Top of the third. And Irvine has beaten UNLV. That's gone final 10-3. That's in the Oregon State Regional. Sam Houston State beat Dallas Baptist 2-1 TCU Regional. Long Beach beat North Carolina 6-1. Houston Regional, Texas does beat Texas A&M 8-1. Mississippi State beat San Diego State 5-2. Jackson State and Lafayette are scoreless. Kansas and Kentucky 6-6 in the top of the 7th. Vanderbilt and Xavier getting underway in just a few minutes. And Pepperdine has beaten Arizona State 3-2. Cal State over Nebraska 5-1. Georgia Southern still leading Florida State 2-0 in the 5th. All right, final thoughts, Pro.
A power outage for the top teams in Tallahassee. Florida State can't scratch against Georgia Southern. Kennesaw shuts out Alabama.
Absolutely. Don't forget, check out KMAC's post-game coverage tonight, sportstalksc.com, as well as our coverage all weekend long at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at sportstalksc. Thank you, Steak Man. Thanks to all of you. Have a great night, a great weekend. At Sports Talk SC. Thank you, Steak Man. Thanks to all of you. Have a great night, a great weekend.